We are continuing to follow breaking news out of the Middle East. The Israeli military says it is conducting what it calls precise strikes on military targets in Iran. Sarah Galashan is at our breaking news desk tracking the latest developments. So, Sarah, all of this happening in the past 40 minutes or so, what can you tell us?
Well, Travis, so there are a number of media sites that are confirming this and offering more details. But this started with reports that there were explosions that were heard within Iran. And Reuters is reporting that state TV in Tehran is reporting several strong explosions, as many as 5, that have been heard around the capital of Tehran and as well a nearby city as well, and that there is no official source on those explosions right now within Iran. That said, we have it from the Israeli Defense Forces. They have, in the last short while, posted to X a statement that confirms that they are responsible for conducting what they're calling precise military targets, strikes on precise military targets within Iran in response to missiles that were launched by Iran at Israel back on October 1st. And I think, well, certainly experts and those around the world have been watching and waiting for what retaliation might come from Israel. And this, according to that statement from the IDF, is what we have been waiting to see if it would unfold. I want to play you a little bit of that statement that has been put out by the IDF on social media.
The regime in Iran and its proxies in the region have been relentlessly attacking Israel since October 7th on 7 fronts, including direct attacks from Iranian soil. Like every other sovereign country in the world, the State of Israel has the right and the duty to respond. Our defensive and offensive capabilities are fully mobilized. We will do whatever necessary to defend the State of Israel and the people of Israel.
It is right now 3:30 in the morning in Iran. And again, as I say, according to Reuters, state media is reporting that there have been explosions, but no confirmation within Iran as to exactly what has been hit or where those strikes are coming from. Israel is claiming responsibility, insisting they're using the words precise strikes on military targets. So we will wait to find out further along what it is they believe that they have actually hit. But the White House also in just the last few minutes is saying that the White House does understand that Israel has conducted targeted strikes against military targets in Iran, and that they're calling it an exercise in self-defense. There's been no U.S. involvement in Israel's military operation against these targets in Iran, according to U.S. officials. To this point, Travis, of course, the White House has been urging diplomacy. And after the October 1st missile attacks from Iran, they had urged Israel that if there was any retaliation in its own self-defense, that they avoid nuclear and oil sites within the country of Iran. But again, at this point, a number of explosions, unknown exactly how many, and unknown exactly what these precise military targets that have been hit might be.
And of course, Sarah, we know that Antony Blinken was just in that area, the U.S. Secretary of State, just arriving back in the U.S. after touring the Mideast. We'll let you continue to follow the breaking news. We'll come back to you if you have more information throughout the show. That is the CBC Sarah Galashan at the breaking news desk. Let's turn once again to Kamran Bakari, who is with us, who is an expert in this region, and can talk to us a little bit about what this situation really signifies in the larger context of the region and the context of the different conflicts that are going on right now. Mr. Bakari, just tell me what your initial reaction was. I know that you told me earlier you weren't surprised, you thought this was coming. Yes.
I mean, Travis, look, the Israelis have made it very clear that they would retaliate. What they did not say, and which is standard operating procedure, is that when it would come. So it came tonight. We were expecting it. It's very difficult to say when such strikes take place because there's a lot that goes into it. There is intelligence, there's planning, there's a lot of diplomacy. You and I talked about how the United States was involved in this process earlier in the segment. And so it takes time to pull these things together. But the key thing to note here is there are limits to how far these two countries can strike at each other. The limits are different for both, given their, the huge difference in capabilities. But at the end of the day, you're not going to have a conventional war here because of that distance.
Correct. Okay. And for years, these two countries have been fighting through proxies. Now that they are in direct conflict, does that signify a shift?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, that this is the first time that, Israel has conducted a military operation at this scale on Iranian soil. And so this is a first for the Iranians. Military powers that are engaged in these kind of maneuvers are gaming things out, as they're planning. So when Iran struck on October 1st, in much more intense way than they did back on April 13th, they obviously had to have gamed out an Israeli response and prepared for it. But preparing for it is one thing, and then actually absorbing a real counterstrike is another. So again, we need to see when there's daylight and we have satellite imagery showing what was hit and how bad, then that will tell us what is the future direction of this direct confrontation. And
there is reporting in terms of what has been hit by some media outlets. We're holding back on that because we want to confirm independently that that is the case. Let's talk a little bit about how we got to this point and the escalating conflict ever since October 7th and Israel fighting these multiple conflicts right now. Just walk us through briefly how this all escalated to this point.
You have the October 7 attack, and then on October 8, you have Iran's premier proxy, Hezbollah from Lebanon, strike the northern areas of Israel. And so there's been a slow buildup ever since. As the war escalated in Gaza, the military action on Israel's northern front involving Hezbollah became much more prominent. You also had the Houthis, another Iranian proxy in Yemen, also strike at Israel. You had strikes also by Iraqi Shiite militias allied with Tehran, based in Iraq, striking as well, although to a lesser degree. And then you also have activity in Syria. So all of this has been sort of slowly building up. But I think by the end of spring and the early summer, it started to escalate. And over the last several months, we've seen a massive spike in the conflict, with the Israelis targeting Hezbollah in a very intense way, essentially eliminating much of its senior leadership, both military and civilian, at multiple levels, eliminating its capability to strike deep into Israel, its long-range rockets and missile capability. And so that has taken this entire conflict to a new level, which is why we saw the Iranians respond on October 1st, especially after the killing of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah. And so that's sort of, in a summary of how we got here tonight.
I'm just going to read a statement that we have now from it's a quote from the White House National Security Council spokesman, Sean Sabat. He said that we understand that Israel is conducting targeted strikes against military targets in Iran, and that the White House was notified, as Sarah mentioned. So more reaction going to be coming in here. Is there a broker other than the United States that could really deal with these two countries right now and try to come to some kind of ceasefire?
Yes. I mean, it's not just the United States. The United States is working with its Arab allies, most notably Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, who also have their own channels with the Iranians. There is the Sultanate of Oman, that has been an interlocutor for many years between the Americans and the Iranians. There is Qatar as well. So this is a regional effort to try and contain this. But the problem is that things have escalated to a point where you just can't expect both sides to knock it off because of the logic of the conflict. It becomes an imperative almost for one side to strike at the other once they're hit. And that's the sort of the danger of the escalatory cycle, or being up on that escalatory ladder where you can't come down. And I think that's what the United States and its regional allies are trying to contain. I'm pretty sure, the Russians are involved in this as well, and there has to be some Chinese effort or role to play here. So this isn't just the United States. This is a multinational effort.
Okay, we're going to pause the conversation there, and we will come back to you for your expertise. We certainly appreciate you being here for the breaking news. That is Kamran Bakari, an expert in the Mideast. We also have a report from the White House now. The White House saying that Vice President Harris has been briefed on Israel conducting targeted strikes against military targets in Iran. She is closely following developments and will continue to be updated. Of course, she is in Texas this evening for a rally. We are also seeing that both ABC News and NBC News are reporting that Israel is not striking Iranian nuclear facilities or oil fields, but is focusing on those military targets, as the IDF has said. Okay, let's bring in now Mark Kansian. He is a retired U.S. Marine Colonel and senior advisor for the Center for Strategic and International Studies, joining us from Arlington, Virginia this evening. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Let me get your initial thoughts as to what is going on this evening.
Well, there are two questions. One is the targeting, and the other one is the duration of these strikes. If the targets are military and do not include nuclear facilities or economic facilities like oil terminals, that's important. The United States has pushed back very hard against attacking Iran's nuclear facilities. Israel does have a history of having done that in the past in Iraq and Syria. Oil facilities would have caused major disruption in both the Iranian economy and the world economy. Historically, Israel has not gone after economic targets, but has focused on military targets. It appears from the reports that, in fact, that's what they're doing, maybe going after some airfields. That's what they did back in April. And they're attacking in the middle of the night. If you wanted to make an attack that minimized casualties, striking an airfield in the middle of the night is the way to do it.
So there are reports right now of sounds of explosions being heard, excuse me, in Tehran. How significant is it that Israel is striking at the heart of Iran?
Well, there are a lot of military facilities around Tehran. So if that's occurring, then that would be quite consistent. If they're attacking any command and control facilities, if they're attacking leadership, for example, that would be something that it's never done before. They've attacked Iranian leaders outside of Iran, and they've attacked other leaders like Hamas leaders inside Iran, but they've never attacked the Iranian leadership. So if that were the case, that would be a big change in precedent. I doubt it from the tenor of what's coming out of the White House.
Right, and let's talk about the White House now, because as you know, as I was talking about with Sarah and our earlier guest, Antony Blinken was in this region. He was, trying to broker a ceasefire on a number of different fronts here. But the White House very quick to say that there was no U.S. military involvement, but they were given a heads up. Tell me kind of the coordination around this and how important it is that the White House got a heads up before this happened.
Well, it's quite important. The White House has been talking to Israel for quite some time, expressing their opinions about what targets might be acceptable and what were not acceptable. So the fact that they responded so quickly indicates that there was likely a close degree of cooperation, and maybe the target set is not going to be a surprise.
How do you think that this will change the other conflicts that Israel is involved in right now on the other fronts?
Probably not very much. If this is a once and done, which is what Israel did back in April, then the world will march on. Unfortunately, so will the conflicts that are ongoing. But this won't make a major change. And the big question would be then, does Iran try a third time to launch missiles at Israel? Right. In which case, Israel would retaliate. Maybe on a third time, they would retaliate more harshly.
So is it your sense that this is a once and done? Because obviously, you know, some would think that Iran is going to respond to this. Do you think that there will be restraint from Tehran?
Well, if this plays out the way it did in April, the answer is yes. April was once and done, and the Iranians did not respond, and everybody walked away because there was great nervousness about escalation. But we'll know pretty quickly. We'll know first whether the Israelis are following this up with a second wave of strikes, and then we'll have a sense of the targeting. But if it looks like April, that is targeting basically empty airfields, I don't think Iran will come back very strongly.
In terms of what the White House can do right now to ease tensions, is there anything that they can do? And we know, as I said, Kamala Harris, the vice president right now, who is campaigning as the Democratic candidate, she's going to be speaking. What do you expect her to say tonight at that rally that she is holding in Texas?
Well, in terms of what the United States can do, I think they've already done a lot. If they were able to restrict the targeting, for example, that was a major help for stability in the region. I think Harris will make reference to it. I mean, I think she will, try to, talk about her involvement in national security affairs and how she's being briefed and how she's a part of these ongoing discussions, to polish her foreign policy, national security credentials.
And how do you see this playing out in the next few days ahead?
Well, a lot depends on whether this is a once and done and Iran doesn't retaliate. If that's the case, 2 days from now, I think we will have moved on. Now, if there's a series of strikes, or if Iran comes back in some way that really hurts Israel or hurts U.S. interests around the region, then this could continue, maybe escalate, but certainly, the pattern of strikes and counterstrikes would continue.
Mark, appreciate you joining us on short notice.
Happy to join.
That is Mark Gancian. He is a retired U.S. Marine colonel and senior advisor for the Center for Strategic and International Studies.